Many people in our communities around New Zealand are doing it tough. Now, talking about Thanksgiving beforehand, lots of things to be grateful for in Aotearoa, New Zealand. But lots of people really, really struggling. And as we head closer to Christmas, the pressure really, really comes on. Issues like unaffordable housing, increased cost of living, inadequate healthcare services, and rising levels of crime. These are amongst the pressing issues facing local communities. The Salvation Army's sixth State of Our Communities report was released earlier this week and focuses on the collective challenges and aspirations of residents in four key communities: Manukau, Thames, Nelson and Motueka. Joining me on the program now is the report's author, Ana Ika from the Social Policy and Parliamentary Unit. Ana, kia ora, thank you for your time.
Kia ora, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Now, you're joining us from Thames at the moment, one of the communities that was focused on. Any particular reason why, when you choose which communities to put the spotlight on, what's the process behind deciding where to have your research focus?
Yes, so State of Our Communities moves around every year, but it's a partnership between our unit, the Social Policy Unit, and our community ministries or our churches.
Mm-hmm.
And so back in the days, back in East End London, of the Salvation Army would do surveys outside their churches to be able to gauge what the challenges the community was facing. And so we've just taken that same model and brought it here to New Zealand. And so we go into communities where our services are. So it just provides us an opportunity to be able to advocate for the community that we're operating in, but also for our staff on the ground to be able to engage with the community, with those that don't come through our doors.
There are perhaps not too many surprises in terms of the sorts of things people are dealing with, cost of living being right up there. I mean, in some ways, it's the pressing issues that we were talking about in the build-up to the election. But from your point of view, Anna, any surprises, anything stood out as saying, oh gosh, I didn't think that one would be on the list?
I think, I think we all knew cost of living. I knew cost of living was going to be quite up there in regards to the challenges that the community talked about. I guess the difference is the context that these different communities are in. For example, here in Thames that I'm in right now, a significant senior group, senior population. And so when you're looking at the increasing cost of food, cost of fuel, cost of power, and then you're looking at the demographic that's here in Thames and their inability to increase their income, that creates a lot of concern. Whereas if we're looking at Manukau, for example, there's high levels of deprivation in the communities there, but yet there's still job opportunities and employment opportunities,
Okay.
and there's, I guess, a buffer to be able to increase your income, whereas in Thames that's not necessarily the case. They're both pressing issues for both communities, but the way in which each community addresses it or deals with it will be different.
Now, I love the way that you break this down to different communities because the State of the Nation report, which is probably going to be the Grinch that steals your summer holidays, working on that throughout the next few months. But it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all. Different parts of the Motu perhaps face different challenges. And I was interested to see in particular in Nelson, where you launched the report earlier in the week, talking about sunshine wages. When I think Nelson, I think, oh gosh, this is a lovely place to live, but not if you don't have the means to pay the rent, to buy food, etc.
Yeah, one of the respondents in Nelson talked about sunshine wages. And for those listening that don't know what sunshine wages are, they're wages that you gain a lifestyle, but you lose a level of your income. And so a lot of the locals in Nelson live on sunshine wages, which is significantly lower than the median household income. And so on the backdrop of increasing housing prices, and food and power and petrol, like I mentioned prior, there's an income there that doesn't necessarily meet the needs that are in that community. I think in Nelson also we looked at the level of housing. I mean, Nelson, like you said, Andrew, it's like a sunny community. I think there's about over 700 Airbnb properties or Airbnb listings for the Nelson area.
Yep.
And because there's a significant housing shortage in Nelson, when we're highlighting that there's 30% of those Airbnb listings, entire homes, that causes question marks to how do we house the locals that do live in Nelson when there's an inadequate number of dwellings for the population.
I mean, hey, it's a beautiful place, but if you're homeless, it's still there's still huge challenges there. And yeah, as I say, love the way that there's, I suppose, a different focus for different parts of New Zealand. Yes, South Auckland is tough, but there's jobs that are available. Yes, Nelson is beautiful, but all the spare rental accommodation is Airbnbs for holidaymakers. Lots of challenges for the incoming government as well, although at this point these 100 days are ticking past and we still don't have a government. What would you see from this report? What would you see to be, well, hopefully, the new government's priorities between now and Christmas and as we head into the new year?
Yeah, I mean, when they eventually when they eventually come together, these issues will still be here. They'll still be the forefront of these communities, the forefront of the families that walk through our doors. These challenges will still be here, and so I guess our aspirations is to be able to push the solutions that the community came up with in the report. We asked the question, like, if you were Prime Minister, what would you do in your first 100 days for your community?
Mm-hmm.
And so we had solutions around addressing food insecurity, around addressing homelessness, around creating more opportunities to engage young people. And so we eventually, when the government decide to form and come together, these issues will still be here. And now it's our job to be able to elevate these local voices to ensure that something is done, whether it's from both the national point of view, but also from a local point of view as well. I think that's something that we stress in the report, is that it's a collective effort. It's not just, we don't just look to the big government. We need to take account of our issues in the community, as well as work with the local government and the national government as well to bring about some of these changes.
I mean, a great question, and hey, what were some of the responses? If people who perhaps don't have as much influence, if they got to be Prime Minister, what would their priorities be in the first 100 days? What were some of the responses, Anna?
Yeah, I think I guess the more practical areas around making sure that food was available and making sure that food was affordable. But then again, some respondents came, provided some, I guess, high level changes around tax relief, around creating policies around a child's first 1,000 days.
Okay.
I mean, what does that look like for that family? Yeah, so there was a range of solutions that the community talked about, whether it was practical help, or whether it was regulation and legislation around renting and putting a price on food increases. And so I think I really like that question every year we ask, because you don't want to just swoop in and tell the community this is how you fix all these issues, but you want to ask the community, like, this is all the issues you're facing, like, what's the solution that you think would be most practical and that your community has a capacity to address. And so so there was a range of answers, from practical issues to, I guess, legislative and regulations that the community suggested.
I think that's a great idea. And hey, perhaps if Christopher Luxon's struggling to pick a Deputy Prime Minister, just pick the person with the best answer to your survey. And hey, maybe promote them to the role, save arguments between the other coalition partners. Or perhaps we should be doing this the other way around. Ask the various contenders for that role what their best solution is. And hey, maybe that will be the tipping point in that regard. And certainly tackling real problems, because I suppose my concern is that the first 100 days, or as I say, what's left of it as we go into summer, is likely to be dominated by the national-led government just undoing Labour Party policies that they didn't like, instead of using that time and energy addressing real needs within communities. Hey, I appreciate that, they need to get some runs on the board. They need to show that they're making a difference, but especially as we're heading to Christmas, real difference that makes a positive impact on people in our communities, not just point scoring between political parties, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like I said before, we just need to make sure that, regardless of what policies come through, I mean, the Salvation Army's been around for 150 years, and our mission's always been the same, Andrew, is to care for people, transform lives, and reform society by God's power. And we've seen countless changes in government. We've seen countless prime ministers come and go, but the mission stays the same. And we need to make sure that the voices of those that we support stays at the forefront, and we continue to push for those issues, irrespective of what the political situation looks like. I mean, sometimes the political situation helps the mission, and sometimes it disadvantages the mission, but the mission stays the same. And I think, that's really important as Christians, that God is sovereign in all things. So we continue to push.
God is not worried about what on earth will happen next. And hey, good on the Salvation Army for the work that you do. Anna, this is a very important report indeed, and we do hope that it gets the politicians' attention once they've decided who's doing what in the new cabinet. If people wanted to find out more about the report, I know you're continuing with this tour. If people wanted to connect more with some of the details, what's the best way of doing that?
Yeah, if you just jump on our website and go to the research tab, you'll see Social Policy and Parliamentary Unit there, and all our reports and research are available there. Otherwise, you can just jump on the website and contact the Salvation Army in regards to the report. We'll be more than happy to engage. We welcome feedback. We welcome criticism. If there's hate mail, then probably send that to Andrew.
No, I get enough of that.
Yeah.
I get plenty of that, and for good reason. Hey, very much appreciate the work that you guys are doing. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the program. Kia ora.